Mr. President, it's 6 o'clock. You can call the meeting to order at your convenience, sir.
I'm going to call the meeting to order of the Crime Control and Prevention District Board meeting for September 9th. It is going to clock up there 6:01, and present is Mr. Tovar, Mr. Hurst, Mr. Evans, Mr. Booth, and myself, and we do have a quorum. I'd like to bring up item number 2, which is approval of February 28th meetings. I understand that we don't have those yet, and that when we do, or when they get
To that point, Mr. President, we have them. I just don't have an accurate list of who all was present. All the minute data itself is accurate, but we need to wait till I have it. I need to get with our temporary city secretary and iron that out, which I'll have for our next meeting.
Okay.
That's all that's missing from that, though, sir.
All right, sir. Great. Item number 3, I'd like to open up the public hearing of the 2021 proposed CCPD budget. It is 6:01 p.m. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak before the board?
Hey, Sian.
And should I take it that there's no one on email or no one for Zoom? Okay.
So you can close the public hearing, Mr.
Okay.
President?
It's 6:02 p.m. and we are closing the public hearing. Item number 4 for discussion of possible action on the 2021 CCPD proposed budget. I'd like to open it up for discussion from any of the current members. We have a motion from Mr. Hurst to accept the budget. Do we have a second? Mr. Booth has a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Unanimous.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 5, discussion of possible action on the unassigned funds for capital purchase of body cameras. And I did, well, what I wanted to do was to kind of open this up for discussion. I think that, and this is just me talking, but I think there's enough interest and should I say even demand to a certain extent that we try to at least plan to make purchases for body cams. If one understand, Chief, that we currently have dash cams, but the body cams, I think, would probably be a better purchase. And actually, to be honest with you, my personal opinion is that that's probably what the CCPD is for.
That's right. Agreed, sir.
So what I'd like to do is open it up for discussion, and then I'd like to ask the chief about some funding issues. So does anybody have any discussion about body cams or any questions for the chief?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, okay.
Well, Chief, if I'm not mistaken, I think was there a number that you happened to mention at the last meeting?
Yes, sir.
It was like 97,000. Does that sound right?
No, that's a little high. If you look at the two combinations, the two stapled components that you have there, one is for the body cameras themselves and supporting software for the devices. And the other quote, which is part of the purchase, is the server itself.
Okay.
What we did, Mr. President, was we reached out to our local IT provider for another quote for the server to see if we could drive that price down. Our concern is that will one server support what we need and for how long? We're still waiting for that feedback, but I feel confident that we should move forward, at least with this one. The quote that we received from our IT provider was $25,000. So it was $4,000 more than the proprietary device that we're looking at here. Unless it's going to be dedicated to that. So it being cheaper and that it's going to be dedicated to body camera video. I think that that's a win-win because it was the lower price of the two anyway.
Chief, have we looked into funding from the state and or the feds, as federal funding as far as, grants and that kind of thing?
Yes, sir. We started that process several months ago, closer to the beginning of the year, and then they stalled out when several of the larger agencies tabled their body cameras. And so we tapped the brakes, seeing what the bigger agencies were going to do, because we recognized there were concerns with the open records request and how they were going to field all those. And I believe you made that point last meeting. It's always been an area of contention for us. However, I think we're at a point in society that that it behooves all of us to move forward, and we cross that bridge as we cross it. We just understand that delays for those requesting may take place, sir. But that was the only reason. So now we're halfway through the grant process. Which, as you probably know, grants, and most of you know, they take a while. We're happy to pursue that. We pursue grants here with vigor. That said, council, governing body itself, has expressed interest that we move faster than slower on this thing. So that really comes up to it's this board's decision on what direction you'd like me to go with that. But I'm all for grants. I just don't know that for this particular timing and civil unrest is the time to wait on the grant. I think if we pursue grants, and we elect not to this time, that we do so now, gearing up for more storage and things of that nature. Perhaps a half a salaried person to help with open records, or some of these other areas of costs that we're going to experience. And again, that's just for the board to decide.
I don't want to hog the microphone. Mr. Booth?
Hi, Chief, any chance we're having cloud storage for a backup on this? Is that a good idea, or what's your thought on that?
So cloud storage is great for the purpose, for what it does if your data is not real secure. This is how it's expressed to me. And keep in mind, I had an undergraduate degree in computer science. It's been 100 years post French Indian War, right after, somewhere around that time. It's changed so much, and I've been a cop for the last almost 20. That said, it's been expressed to me that cloud storage is fine. Some agencies use it, some don't. It's always better when you can defend that you store your own video in-house, where no one can raise the question of whether or not it was compromised or altered or anything else. And we hear that from the DA's office. When we did have cloud storage, Mr. Booth, on our WatchGuard stuff, specifically for the DA's office, where we could upload a thing and they could grab it. They quit using it after about the first month because of the defense attorneys raising questions on too specific of a questions for them to answer and articulate to reasonably defend it. I'm basing my preference on what the experts are telling me, and that is in-house storage is always best when you can. I know that if we were San Antonio or a much larger agency, cloud storage might be the only way to consider. I think for the price, I'm guessing, and I'm being cautiously optimistic, if we get 3 years out of that server storage, I think we've done okay on that in considering IT stuff. And that it's this board's job going forward in 3 years to reassess the need for a new server. But I'm open to reaching out and getting more answers on the cloud stuff, if you prefer, if that's what the board desires.
Is there an additional backup to the server in case it goes down?
So we do have backups. We certainly do. We have a secondary WatchGuard server that we think we could clean up substantially and utilize as a backup. Additionally, we have a backup through our IT provider that backs up all of our stuff for, I think, like 3 months. So we have some time to respond in that 3 months. In other words, we could order a new server, we could get one repaired. Certainly we would get a warranty. We would run the warranty course and get it fixed in that amount of time, and have that be ample time with the backup provider that we have. Good question, though.
Chief, I think it's next month that the state opens up their applications for grants. So I was wondering, and it's obviously it's up to the board, that maybe we can at least apply. I mean, this 60,000 is, 57,000 is not that, it's better than what was quoted last time for sure. But I was wondering if maybe before we make this big expenditure that we could at least look at the funding.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. We prefer that way. We're no stranger to grants. We like to save the city money where we can. I'm just expressing Councilman Gregory's desire to not drag our feet, which we're not.
I know.
I don't think that's unreasonable, Mr. President, to take a week or two. And when we can meet again at y'all's convenience, even before the end of the year, if you want to, and pull the trigger on that, if it looks like the grant's going to drag out for 6 months or 7 months or a year or something. But I do suggest that before you wrap up, and I know you're not done with this topic, that you visit each one of the directors and ask them if they have anything for the discussion specifically.
Oh,
okay.
I was, and no, but
I figured as
thank
much.
you. No, because like I said, I don't want to hog the microphone.
No, just trying to help with the Robert Rules stuff and how.
Nope.
But yes, sir.
I appreciate that, Chief.
You bet.
Does anybody else have any comments or
Just
input?
Mr. Tovar, just start with one of them, Mr. President. Mr. Tovar,
On these. You're
the
saying
back,
that-
the cameras.
You're saying that if you try to go through a grant, it's gonna take longer to get the help?
just suggesting that it could, and we're gonna reevaluate that. They often take, especially federal grants. This is a state grant, by the way. It might move faster. Federal grants can take a year. I've wrote them where they take a year and then only to be told you didn't qualify. So what we're going to do is go back out to the state and see what kind of queue we could get in to pursue the grant. And if it looks like we could get an answer relatively soon, and relative is subjective, but relative to the issues that we're faced with, I would bring that back to the board and we would pursue that or an alternate course.
No, this is with the cameras thing, the cameras and all that.
Yes, sir. For the body cameras, we have the in-car cams, and the dash cams. Yes, sir.
I think if you have the means, you try and get it as soon as possible.
So then okay, and that's duly noted. I'm certain. Thank you. Then Mr.
Yeah,
Hurst,
Mr. Tobin, I mean, I think we all want to get them as soon as possible. I think some of us might have we want to try to make sure that we don't, I mean, if there's monies out there that we don't, that's for free, there are grants out there available that maybe we could explore them.
And what we
That's
could do, Mr. President, to your point, is we could state here that we could via email, I could provide that information and we could get a consensus on yay, go forward. And it's not really a vote. We're acknowledging it now that that's the course of action that we would take should we find that we run into a dead end with the grants in a week. If Mr. Tovar, if that seems more palpable.
Well,
That would help expedite instead of waiting to reorganize another meeting and such.
Mhm.
But that gives us an opportunity to reach back out. We've been trying to fill large open records requests for, you can imagine, a lot of the use of force data and stuff that has come out from the media. In fact, I just gave an interview with Fox, a very lengthy interview where they were questioning our racial profiling numbers, which are fine. They're within compliance. We do internal audits and external audits. And anyway, I digress. We can elect to move through email just with a nod that the board directors say, yeah, okay, let's take the alternate course now and make the purchase. If that's what y'all elect to do on this item when you're done, Mr. President.
Anything else, Mr. Tovar?
no.
Mr. Hurst?
What I was gonna say on these grants, if you spend city money now and you get a grant later, can you replace what you've used already?
And that's some of the things we have to ask, Mr. Tovar. It's a great question. Some do, some don't. The retro monies are rare in most instances. They want to see you jump through the hoops first and wait for the awardants, but some do. And we can find that out within the next week in a reasonable amount of time. And I tend to lean that way myself. Is a week is not, considering we've waited, a couple of years on this, that another week I don't think is going to hinder much. As long as we're moving forward, if we're making progress towards a goal that we collectively have, I think we're good.
Mr. Hurst?
Good for me. It's good enough.
Okay. You good? Mr. Evans?
Yeah, the only question I would have is, this would be valid for 3 years, it looks like. So 3-year warranty on the equipment?
Yes, sir. We can get new warranties fairly cheap as long as everything is still reasonably fit for duty.
Okay. And then is there a kind of an annual cost that we'll have to roll in next year as well?
No, so I'll ask that question. We asked it up front, but now that you say that, I mean, we pay an annual cost as it is, or no, we don't. We don't even pay an annual cost for what we currently have. I don't think there's going to be one, Mr. Evans, but I will certainly revisit that.
Nice, thank you.
We don't pay an annual cost for what we have now. We buy the cameras outright. We buy the software outright, and then we buy the warranties outright. And then in 5 years, we kind of have a plan to repurchase new ones as those are past their useful life.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty positive that there's not, but it's an excellent question.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Booth?
Is there anybody coming down here to help set this up, or are we just on our own and read a manual, or what happens?
Another great question, and I'm pretty sure they gave us tech support last time. One on-site installation, tier 1 on-site installation.
Yeah.
Project coordinator. It's at the very bottom of the second page, Mr. Booth. The cameras are just going to ship to us. Those are pretty plug and play. Charge them, snap them on, and go. The server setup, it looks like we will have an on-site installer and project coordination
That's good.
for $5,000 for the sum of $5,000. But yes, it's there, and that you want it done that way so it's done right and you're maximizing their product that you're
Certainly.
purchasing.
Anything else, Mr. Booth?
No, that's it.
All right, sir.
Mr. Evans, did you have any?
Just one more question.
Sure.
If you have to buy, let's say, some replacement batteries, can you do that, or do you have to come back to us for that, or?
So we would normally do that out of an equipment line item as long as the price wasn't real exorbitant. That's what that equipment line item is for in crime control, as well as our general fund budget for things like that. So as far as statutorily required, no, we could make that purchase.
Okay,
It's the
good.
bigger ticket items and the ones that are truly unbudgeted, because that's basically a budgeted item through the equipment line item.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir. And Mr. CM, if you think anything is, you can clarify anything, feel free. Y'all know the city manager. Did we introduce her? Y'all, everybody met him last time?
Yes, sir. Um, Chief, like I said, the information I got was that I think it might be this month. It might not be until October when they start accepting.
New fiscal year.
Applications, correct? So would it, and I guess I can put this, what does everybody, let me get some input that we ask the chief to look into the funding from the state, and that, we can always have an emergency meeting, quote unquote, at the end of the year, or based on what information he gets us. And if we can at least get, because if I'm not mistaken, I think what I read online, and the internet can be a dangerous thing, but from what I read online is that they might be able to supply like 80% or something like that, and that we don't have to worry about, 20%, something along those lines. So
Be fantastic.
Yeah.
And to your point, sir, that we're not on the same fiscal year as the state or the feds or about anybody else in the free world. We're on January to January, which
Right.
drives me nuts. And the city manager is working towards getting us on the regular, everybody else's timeline for that stuff. I explained all that, so I digress again a little bit. I explained that last time. It does affect our grant processing and how you time stuff. I think it is prudent. In fact, though, I can see where this might, because reform and things could mandate that the state start to provide that stuff, but that could be a year out. So I caution us to wait too long. It becomes a slippery slope, and we find ourselves 2 months in and we say, well, what's another 2 months? And then, then you're committed. And what's that? There's a business term for that, a poison pill or something along those lines where now you're in it. So I would say that we put a reasonable timeline after their fiscal year starts at, maybe 6 weeks or something that seems
okay.
palpable to the director.
I don't know if I need to make a motion
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, sir.
Am I allowed to make a motion?
Anybody can make a motion.
Okay.
You can as well, sir.
If no one minds, I'd like to make a motion that we ask the chief and the department, I guess the city as well, to inquire and to apply for state funds, at least. I know we know that federal funds, but at least state funds to assist to help finance the purchase of body cams. And as far as a timeline, chief, I mean,
You'll
if you-
need that,
if you
but that's y'all's decision. Yes,
if you
sir.
could get back to us by the end of October and at least give us an update.
Yes, sir.
And that from then we can determine based on the information that the chief gives us, whether we want to go forward or not at that time, or maybe wait a couple more months, whatever the issues are.
The only other concern I would have at all on the horizon on this thing would be the election time of year. And I think we can expect some fallout either way. We're no stranger here now to protest. I know most of you know that in our city specifically. And so I ask that we just keep that in mind as we get closer to that time frame. So I think we can get enough feedback for October to adequately make a decision that we do so then at the will of the directors, though, would be what I would ask.
Do we have an idea how quickly WatchGuard can turn this around for us?
And another great question. Let me see how available they are, because that could delay. An excellent question. And I'm certain that I would have said 8 months ago, I was certain that they're ready to go.
Yeah.
Now everybody's probably scrambling to do the same, because there's a lot of agencies here that hadn't done. And by the way, we didn't pursue, I think I covered this, but this is important. We didn't pursue other proprietary products based on the fact that we're already committed with WatchGuard. We're already extremely happy with WatchGuard. Their product has exceeded our expectations. And a lot of the other suburbs are utilizing it. And the feedback I've got from theirs, the ones that are utilizing it, rather, the body cameras, is that they're ecstatic with how well it performs interoperability with the dash cams. And so that's why we didn't bring anything else. I think that was touched on at the last meeting, but just wanted to reiterate.
Yeah, I'd prefer you stick with the same system.
Yes,
so
sir.
You don't have to learn anything new.
That's right. And if you're unsatisfied, well, shame on us just for going down that road, but we're not. We're extremely happy. We will be buying their cameras for as long as they stay in business, should they continue to provide this type of quality product.
Excuse me, Jim, I think you should include county in case there's any county money available as well.
Good point, Mr.
There we
Booth.
go.
State or county funds.
Okay.
End of October, sirs? Is that what we?
The end of October, so let me just do the motion again, if that's allowable, that I make a motion that we ask the chief and the city to inquire as far as grants from state and local, to include county. And that get back to us by the end of October so that we can determine whether more time is needed or that we can take action.
Well said. He's a second.
Is there a second?
Tom Hurst, if you'll
Mr.
note that,
Hurst
Mr.
seconds.
President, Tom Hurst, yes, sir.
Any other discussion?
Got a question. Are you trying to get this equipment before the election?
Well, I'm just saying, let's let that be on our mind that,
Yeah.
that could be, I'm going to check with WatchGuard and check its availability. If they assure me that it can be done. We have equipment. We have cameras throughout our building. I'm not worried about stuff here. It's the stuff on the road. And that if the officer is in the middle of something, he doesn't have the wherewithal to flip the camera to the direction of where things might take place, right? Because you don't know how these fluid moments take place. You're going to be without it, but you'll always have the audio, and that's better than nothing. And anymore, someone's usually got other video as well. So I'm not particularly concerned. I just ask that we be cognizant of some of these other events that are going on that might create more of an exigent timing on this. That's all, Mr. Tovar.
Yeah, well, I'm for you getting this as soon as possible. You never know what's going to happen with these people today.
Understood. And we'll see if we can't get answers sooner. And you'll obviously get that feedback the sooner we get it. We won't wait till the end of October if we get it next week. You all will get it when we get it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Unanimous?
opposed? Unanimous.
Very
Let me
good.
also say that, I mean, like I said, the internet can be a dangerous thing, but WatchGuard is probably one of the two top companies that provide body cams and dash cams.
Yes, sir.
From what I've read, so.
It seems to be so. We've had others and they failed in comparison.
Right.
1031. Okay, sir. Item number 11. I'm sorry, number 6.
Citizens will be heard on any non-agenda items. Opening it up for 6:23. I see none and hear none. I'm closing the citizens to be heard. Any announcements?
I put meeting dates just as a placeholder. We hashed that out last time. Nothing's changed with you guys. We'll leave that alone until we get back, follow up on this, on the cameras. And did you want to?
Just want
Pose
to
something?
discuss something with everybody. I mean, there's a number of us that are new to this. And so we're not, and maybe I'm being, first of all, I don't want to sound accusatory in any fashion. But if we're going to be fiduciary, we're going to be responsible fiduciaries, I think that we should at least have quarterly, or at least inquire as far as quarterly bank statements to show that, and I will apologize, definitely, it's only from personal experience, and I'm not accusing anybody. I think it's, trust and verify or whatever it is. So at least quarterly bank statements to show that the monies that were spent on training came from the training. This monies that were spent on the cars came from the car allotment. And just to show that we can show the public that we are aware of where these monies are going to, and that everything's kosher. So that's just my opinion. I can open for discussion. We can actually make a motion, I guess.
Honestly, Mr. President, I think that
Yeah.
unless you're asking to do it as a board or in a formal meeting, I think I think y'all have the right to do that by reaching out to either the city manager
Okay.
or that finance. I don't think it's something that you'll need a motion on.
Okay.
But if you're asking for discussion, I think that might be appropriate
Okay.
on how the other board members feel or,
Thank you, Chief. Is there any discussion or any input on that?
oh, you know
Not
what?
on the agenda.
So it's under announcements, Mr. City Manager. So there's no action taken. Can it go there? I thought that it could, but maybe not. So yeah, maybe you work it that way, Mr. President, that you'd like to throw that out there for the board, and that you'd be looking into pursuing that for the next meeting, and we can make it
Okay.
an agenda item if you'd like.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That
That's
fair?
just-
or
That's just an
cleaner?
idea, and I'd like to get, I guess you got, well, no, we can't email, but I mean, if any input on that or any concerns, I guess we can I don't know if we can discuss it either.
Yeah, so, but well, to your other point, sir, I think we can address it. As far as the other component to that announcement was going to be that you hope to see, at our follow-up meetings, you'd hope to see reports and summaries of expenditures and revenues.
There we go.
And,
There we go.
and just in that same vein, we normally would. This is a new directorship for the most part. We've got four new faces to this year and a couple of current and a mainstay. Mr. Booth's been on for quite a while. Barring last year or two's debacle, some would say, just the transitions that we've made and some of the things that took place in these last year and a half. Some things weren't conventional. Some meetings were canceled. Some members weren't showing up. Some were refused to participate after they were nominated. We're not there anymore. That would normally occur. So at our next regular scheduled meeting, we will be covering all of 2020's expenditures, all of those revenues, and quarterly after that, we will be revisiting that stuff. And that kind of, I think I can bring bank statements to that, and that will kind of satisfy check that box, if you will, for what you're hoping to do. It provides you the backups to what we're showing you on our summary sheets.
And let me just add, Chief, that there's no suspicion, there's no.
Understood.
I mean,
Completely.
We're taking over
Yes, sir.
a large fund, and I think we just want to
Yes.
make sure that we can show the.
And we
public.
would normally cover that stuff quarterly, Mr. President. Last meeting, we covered what we could up to that point without the bank statements. But normally quarterly, we would bring that stuff and it would take place. And the minutes that you looked at in the last couple of years might not have that because our meetings were a little more dysfunctional and not unconventional. Let me just leave it at that. They were unconventional. They were hit or miss.
Understood.
Off topic a lot of time, but we're in a different place, and this board is certainly already demonstrating an ability to be the directors that we need it to be and move it forward. So it will get leveled off, is what I'm getting at.
And I appreciate that, Chief. And I agree. I think the members here are very diligent, and everybody has,
Yes, sir.
their heart in the right place. So,
Yes, sir.
any comments from the board?
We still on announcements and?
You can go ahead, sir.
Okay. I just wanted to remind everybody that at the last meeting, I asked for our city secretary to send out a list of members' contact information, and I followed that up with an email, which she responded. And I just want to make sure that everybody got the contact information. She didn't manage to put a little personal comment, which I don't think was really necessary. It wasn't like it was hidden. I brought it open to the meeting that I wanted to do this. Nobody seemed to argue about the idea. If you don't want anybody to be contacted, then just don't give your information. But anyway, I got mine, and I hope that everybody got their contact information for each other in case you happen to want to ask a question. But obviously, you still have to follow the rules and not
That's right.
discuss it with two people.
Very important, Mr. Booth, that last piece. Thank you.
Did anybody not get their copy of the list of members and their contact information? Okay, good. All right. Any other announcements by the board? Any comments from the board? Well, shoot, man. It's 6:29, and I guess.
So I guess I got an announcement. If y'all
Okay.
keep an eye on Fox News, there'll be a story coming out. It's not going to look real. I was told verbatim, I'm quoting the reporter, Yami Virayin. She said, look, Chief, we're not here to jump out of the bushes and surprise people or do end arounds or sneak attacks, but I am an investigative reporter. The buildup to the story is not going to be the most appealing, but it's to get the audience to watch. She said, but after talking to you today, I guarantee you that the story, having watched the story, when they see the story, they will leave with a completely different view of police and numbers and racial profiling, at least from your perspective, and how the city of Castle Hills is doing. So I only say that to say that please follow us on social media and in the news when you do see it. I think it's important that we work tirelessly towards maintaining our brand and our image and following the statutory requirements of your police department.
Thank you.
Chief, and I don't think anybody more so than this board expects that or wants that. I mean, we have a great admiration for the department. Otherwise, I don't think we'd be on this board. So,
Yes, thank you. Appreciate that sentiment.
any
And
other
your
comments
service.
from the board before we adjourn?
Then I move we adjourn.
Second? Oh, sorry, Mr. President. I'm just I'm telling you
Yeah,
to get the
I was
second.
looking to see if anybody else. wanted a
Okay.
second.
Second.
Okay, motion to adjourn is made by Mr. Booth, seconded by Mr. Evans.
All in favor?
All in favor? Sorry.
That's all right.
Aye.
Unanimous?
Unanimous.
Perfect.
We adjourn.
Good meeting. Well ran.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate your service.